Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. My name is Nicole Hemmenway, and I am the CEO of the U.S. Pain Foundation. And we are doing a taped recording of a panel discussion we had a couple of weeks ago on my experiences with implanted pain relief. For those of you that tuned in originally, as you know, I had some technical difficulties on my end. And so I want to thank our panelists, Mr. Beck, Janet, and Erin, for coming back and retaping so individuals can listen and learn information that was so important and so helpful to so many people the last time we did this. So thank you guys for being here with me tonight.
Glad to be here.
Great. So before we begin, this session is part of our Neuromodulation Knowledge Campaign, and it's an annual month-long campaign that's held every November to educate folks about a different theme. And this year we chose external and implanted neuromodulation. For those of you that participate in 2 of the 3 events this month, you will be able to receive a free face mask. So please know that you can watch this recording as well as our previous recording from TENS to SCS up until December 15th. And then you can submit a form and receive a really cool face mask. To learn more details, please go to uspainfoundation.org/November. We could not do this without the support of our sponsors. And so US Pain Foundation thanks Boston Scientific and Abbott for sponsoring our November efforts this year. Thank you so very much for giving us this opportunity to provide education and support to individuals with pain. Before we begin, I do want to just have a quick disclaimer that US Pain does not endorse or recommend the use of any particular treatment or product. So everything you are hearing tonight is strictly educational, and it is not meant as medical advice. Please contact and seek out your healthcare provider to talk about any information you learn or treatment options that might be helpful for you going forward. And so now I am so excited to be here with Kevin, Erin, and Janet to have this discussion. Neuromodulation actually is very important to myself as well. I actually had decades ago an implanted spinal cord stimulator. I live with chronic pain. I have complex regional pain syndrome that I've had since childhood. And for a while it was working for me. Unfortunately, it stopped working. And then I found some other treatments actually in the external neuromodulation area that have been very beneficial along my own pain journey. And so I was super excited to be able to moderate this discussion to talk about implanted pain relief as an option for individuals living with pain. And so we have Mr. Kevin Lee Beck, who is a US Navy veteran and also a retired businessman from North Carolina. And he uses neuromodulation to treat pain from an amputation. We have Erin Kegley, a medical assistant from Colorado, who relied on an implanted device to help with nerve damage on her left lower abdominal wall. And we also have Janet J., who is a US pain communication specialist from Texas, who lives with spine pain and actually had a piece published in Popular Science about her spinal cord stimulator experience. And so I am going to start and turning it over to you. And I would love each of you just to share sort of your experience with pain, what you've gone through, and then what type of implanted pain device you use. And I am going to begin with Erin tonight.
Yes, I developed pain about 2 years ago, give or take. It was unexpected. It just randomly started. The pain was nonstop, 24/7, and it was so difficult just to get out of bed, do normal functions throughout the day, just enjoy life. You know, I am a very active person, and so during this time, I was unable to do the things I enjoy, and it was just really hard just to get out of bed and go to work. After going to several doctors and trying different treatment options, they did determine that I did have nerve damage on my left lower abdominal wall. And so I went through all the different trials, and they did and determined that that was probably the best plan, was to proceed with a spinal cord stimulator. So I've had the implant for about 2 years now. And since the implant, I am off all opioids, enjoying life again, am able to just function without any other alternative treatments, and just has it really changed my life and improved the quality.
That's fantastic to hear. Janet, do you want to share your story?
Yeah, my pain, I am in my mid 30s now, and my pain started when I was 15, so it's been a minute. And it took me, it was over a decade before I got any sort of real diagnosis. What they finally figured out was that, among other things, I have a disc that was impinging a nerve, basically radiculopathy, and had a spinal cord stimulator recommended. Sorry. And so I ended up getting an implanted spinal cord stimulator using the burst technology, which is the new waveform that you don't feel as a buzzing. You feel it. You don't feel it as anything. So that was kind of the cool scientific advancement that I kind of got in on the ground floor of. And that's why I was able to write that article about what the experience was about, the new technology and what the whole thing was like.
Thanks. Mr. Beck, what about you?
Mine was kind of a long journey. The original injury to my right foot happened back in 1979 while I was in the U.S. Navy. It was a crushing injury. Multiple surgeries over the years trying to save the foot, and finally amputation below knee in December of 2014. Of course, as an amputee, what happens often, we developed neuromas, and I developed two pretty good sized ones now. I actually can feel them. I just reached down there, I can feel the knot down there, and I had cured myself of phantom pain, but the neuromas, you just can't wrap your head around that pain. It was just awful. It was really killing life. And so I investigated different ways of trying to fix that. Surgery, no one wants more and more surgeries, and that's all they could do. You live with it, or it was offered to me, and they call it a DRG stimulator. And so I went through all the hoops that you had to jump through and was able to get it installed. And hallelujah, they turned it on, and I have been pain and medication free ever since.
That is amazing. And I know you touched on it just a second, that they talked about other therapies and treatments first, and then they came to this conclusion. But was it a long process, and how long did it take you to first learn about these types of treatments?
Well, it was mentioned to me by my anesthesiologist, who's also, this is in the VA hospital system, and he's in charge of the pain clinic in Durham, North Carolina. And he had mentioned about my alternatives, what to do, knowing what we had. And I definitely didn't like to hear about surgery, which means every 3 or 4 or 5 years, you've got to get cut on again. And next thing you know, they're up at your hip. And I said, that's just not viable for me. And I knew I couldn't live with it, meaning it would be miserable. And he talked about some of the medications and all these nerve medicines. I had reactions to all of them. I mean, everything they gave me, gabapentin, amitriptyline, you name it, I had very serious side effects from them. So that wasn't an option. And also was recommended was acupuncture. And not that I don't have faith in it. It just didn't seem viable for me. So I was told about this. I did my own research also, but they were able to guide me to get all the answers that I needed. I have to say, a great shoulder to lean upon, but it was a difficult journey because it did take me almost 2 years to get approval from the date that I put in the application and all the processes I had to go through.
Okay, that is a bit of. Do you hear that echo?
Mm-hmm.
Just that once though.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, sorry about that. It might be more technical difficulties on my end again. That is quite a bit of time to wait to get the process through and the approval. And I know that I want to hear sort of from Janet and Erin too, to kind of get their thoughts on how did they first learn about implanted devices, but also did you have a long journey, and did it take a period of time to be able to go through the process? Janet, would you like to go?
Yeah. You know, I'm the not miraculous case for this particular treatment, which you know, I think it's awesome that some people have their pain completely taken away, and that some people can do that instead of meds or surgery or alternative treatments and stuff. I have tried every alternative treatment and medication and surgery and wonky weird thing that sounds like it doesn't make any sense, but somebody says it's good for chronic pain. I've tried every one of them. And I originally had a spinal cord stimulator brought up as a treatment idea years ago, and I decided it was not the right time for me to do it for various reasons that I don't know if it was the right decision or not. But finally, once I had a scan, that I had something on the scan that we could look to and say, this is what's causing part of your pain. Now we know where to place it. I felt more confident that they were going to be placing it in the exact right place. So it helped a lot. It didn't take away my need for medication. It didn't take away all my pain. It didn't take away my need for, you know, other medical treatment, but it made a huge difference in my day-to-day life. And I think that's really important. Like, it might take away all your pain. And if it does, hallelujah, you know. But even if it doesn't, it can make a huge change. And then having that, you know, chunk of feeling better can then allow you to make other changes in your life to get more healthy when you're not just constantly struggling. So,
and that's one thing US Pain talks a lot about, is that it might be a couple of treatments coming together, but if you get 30% decrease in pain here and a 10% here and a 5% there, that's 45%. And no matter what it might be, I mean, even whatever percentage you're getting from this particular treatment, that could also be life-changing, from having to be in bed and unproductive to being productive.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably say I only got about a third of my pain taken away, which is bonkers for me to say only in that sentence. But I guess in this room, I'm the only. But yeah, and you know, between that and then I had a med change that has made a massive difference. But yeah, as you said, it's really for most of us, I think it's one big block in a building block that is your health treatment that you have to manage your condition with. But it can be a huge help and make a huge difference. But sorry, to answer the actual original question, my process for actually getting the spinal cord stimulator was not nearly as complicated as Kevin's, although it did take probably about over a year between the first time the doctor brought it up and when I actually, you know, went home from the hospital. But I feel like once I made the decision, my doctor was really supportive, and the insurance company was not, you know, thrilled, but they were certainly like, they were on board with it. So it wasn't too bad.
Okay, and Erin, what about your experience?
My experience, well, after they found out that I did have nerve damage on my abdominal wall, they referred me immediately to pain medicine. And I had to go through several like trigger point injections, acupuncture, like Mr. Beck had mentioned, which did work, but it was temporary, not very, maybe a couple of days, if that. But the process was very quick. Of course, it depends on your insurance and all the necessary requirements before they will proceed with the implant. But it was really quick for me. So within months, I would say.
That is pretty quick.
It was.
And all three of you, with either the DRG or the spinal cord stimulator, you all did have a trial period prior to the implantation, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to touch on, Erin, I'll start with you, sort of what that trial experience was like? How long did it last?
Trial only lasted a week. It was it was easy in the office. They just put it on. And the only thing is you couldn't shower for like a week. And and then you would know immediately within, I would say, hours or not, or within a day, if you would know if it was going to work or not. And so I knew instantly once they put it in and just turned it on that I would be selected for I would be a good candidate.
That's amazing. What about you, Janet? Did you have sort of a similar experience, just in the sense that you both had the spinal cord stimulator?
Yeah, it was same thing. It was, they put it in, they taped you up, they sent you home and told you not to shower for a week. But just as you said, even in my trial, they told me, it can last up to 2 weeks. If you think you need that long to make a decision, take 2 weeks. But most people know pretty quickly whether it's going to be something that helps or not. And if you feel like in a week you have made the decision and you know it's going to help or not, go ahead and give us a call and we'll take it out. And I think I had it put it in on a Friday and it was taken out by the next Friday. I think it was either that Thursday or Friday. So I had it for about a week total. Even though I could have kept it for 2 weeks. It was just like, yep, it's going to help. Let's go. Let's get these wheels moving.
And Kevin, what about you? How was the trial process with the DRG?
Mine was quite interesting. I remember when I was in recovery and I was laying there in pain. The neuromas were going crazy. And after about an hour, of course, my wife had said, "Are you okay?" I said, "It's not working." And the technician walked in and had his little old iPad in his hand and said, "All right, Mr. Beck, let's turn that thing on." And he pushed the button and that was it. It quit. The pain was over. Now, I did go through, which is a little longer than you guys. Mine was around 2 weeks is what I found out. They did the hardwiring in me, as I'll call it, and then they mounted it externally. But I knew, like y'all were talking about, I was so happy already, and I never had a bit of problem. And they actually scheduled my surgery for 2 weeks later to come back. And of course, when I came back, I said, "Hey, this thing is awesome. I have zero pain." They said, "Well, let's get it put inside of you then and sew you up." And that's exactly what it was.
So from the time that you had the trial period to when you decided and that this is going to work to the actual implantation, was it pretty quick from that period, from when they put the trial to when it was finally implanted?
Mine was roughly 2 weeks. And, like I said, it was the exact device. They just had it like in a pouch, I'll call it, or sterile containment. And they put me back under and opened me up and stuffed her in and stomped on me. And they sewed me up and turned it back on again. And I don't go back and see them for several more years till the battery gets weak.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And Erin, what about you? How long was it from when you said that this is working to the actual implantation?
I think it was like within weeks.
Okay.
It was
So
very quick.
Very quick.
Yes.
And Janet, did you also have that experience?
Yeah, I think maybe mine was about a month, like month and a half, something like that. Because I remember I had to see a different doctor about the surgery. So it was, I think, about a month rather than a couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of time frame we're talking about.
Right. So as soon as you know, I mean, it does go pretty fast from you have the trial to it, it is a viable option for you to implantation.
Yeah.
So a question that we received a lot earlier was if any of you had initial concerns about neuromodulation and about implanting a device. And I'm going to start also, Janet, I was going to start with you. Did you have any concerns or ask a lot of questions ahead of time regarding this type of treatment?
Yeah, absolutely. As I previously said, I have tried everything that's out there, and some of it's worked and most of it hasn't. And I've been told many times, like, oh, we figured it out. This is going to solve everything. Like, this is going to fix you. And, you know, spoiler alert, it had never actually, it had never happened. So for me, anytime there's a surgery, obviously it's a concern, but just the idea, there were a lot of concerns about it, honestly. The fact that it lasts so long, the fact that it's surgery, but for me, the ability to do the trial, that there's no, not long-term effect isn't the word, but there's no, like, if it doesn't help you, they just pull it out, and there's no recovery time because it's in your spine. So yeah, for me, that was a big selling point, that you were able to see if it would work before really having to undergo any kind of like real surgery. But yeah, I had a lot of concerns, but they were all met. I mean, I was really impressed that I had a lot of questions, and then I had even more questions because I was writing a story about it. So I had all my questions plus all my story questions, plus, whatever else I could think of. And everybody that I interacted with, really knew their stuff and was able to answer those questions for me. So I think that's why part of the reason I felt confident enough to go through with it.
That's good to hear that not only did you do your research, as so many people with pain are great at, is researching different therapies and treatments that might help them, but also you were able to voice those concerns and then receive the answers that helped you choose and have that conversation is about if this was the right choice and the right option for you. So I like to hear that. Erin, what about you? Did you have any concerns overall?
With any type of surgery, and especially putting like a foreign object in your body, there will be concerns. You're wondering if your body's going to reject it. There's not going to be any complications. And so, but I think the trial is very important because it will determine if this is going to work for you before you even have to go and have the surgery. But yeah, I did have some concerns on how long it would last and just on the how the stimulation would just affect the area where I'm having the nerve damage. But everything was, all my questions were answered. They gave me all the information I needed. And after I did the trial, I knew for sure that this was right treatment plan for me.
That's great. And Kevin, what about you?
Unlike a lot of men, I read instructions. And fortunately, I did have a lot of questions, and they were everyone answered. There was actually, since it was a lengthy process to go through also, but a lot of the questions I had was, just as Erin had said, that foreign object being implanted in my body, infections, et cetera. What would happen if it failed later on? Are they, how hard is it to take it back out? What long lasting effect would the wiring have on my body? What if later on it starts rejecting or I start having twitches? I mean, I had these questions because this is an electronic device that is
Right.
tapping my nervous system. And I have to say, and not mentioning names, but the the head of the neurological department there at the VA hospital was also head of at Duke Hospital and very renowned surgeon. And he really put me at ease, especially with the success rate of the surgery. And as it was well told to me, I might get 5% or I could get 100% relief. And so that trial period, once it was installed on me,
Right.
that really told me this was going to work, and I was ready to have it put permanently inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no dumb questions.
No, there really isn't. As a person living with pain, you have to be an advocate for yourself. And the
Exactly.
only way you're going to feel comfortable and feel empowered to try different therapies is by having these difficult conversations and to be asking the questions that you need answers to. So I think that's great that all of you felt comfortable and made sure that the concerns you had were addressed.
And I know it kind of sounds weird to say it this way, but we'll laugh about YouTube videos. But you know, most surgeons have had some or a lot of their surgeries recorded. And just as with this, I was able to watch through a code, an access code, one of the exact surgery for someone else and see what it looked like. And you know, things like that, it doesn't really bother me. And so I watched it, and it was fascinating to be able to kind of be in the OR and see this particular person having a DRG stimulator installed. And it was kind of easy.
Wow.
Do it.
So a question that I have is regarding limitations. So you have an implanted device now in your spines and it's helping control your pain, but are there other limitations on activities or exercises that you should or should not do? And how has it maybe changed the way that you live your life? Janet, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Mine doesn't have a whole lot of limitations or restrictions on it. I specifically chose the stimulator that I chose so that it was one that could go through an MRI, and all of them can go through like airports and stuff like that. Mine, unfortunately, because of the way that the surgery went, ended up not being able to go through an MRI, but the technology can go through an MRI. And in terms of like, you know, day-to-day life, really, I forget I even have it, honestly. Like Kevin has said before, I forget to charge my controller, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I should check it and make sure. And I call it the spine pod, which is I have a little iPod that controls my spine. So I charge it, make sure it's still on. And I don't really feel it at all unless I am laying like flat on my back, full length on the floor, which there are not actually that many conditions in life that I'm laying that way. If I'm laying exactly that way, I can feel the burst stimulation and how it's a weird kind of like up and down, like buzzing. But yeah, that's the only thing. And even then it's not painful. It's just distracting more than anything. So yeah, there aren't that many situations where all of those factors come into play and cause me problems.
Erin, what about you? Were there any limitations? I think sometimes people wonder, like, can I do yoga? Can I ride a bike? Can I
You can still
maybe
do all
run?
of those with the spinal cord stimulator. No limitations. Do what you enjoy. Any activity that you enjoy, just continue. There is no limitations with the spinal cord stimulator. And just like Janet, the only thing is going through an MRI at the airport. So you have to get patted down. But yeah, just that's the only restriction with the spinal cord stimulator is just, you know, having to get patted down at the airport instead of going through, you know, an MRI machine.
And Kevin, what about with the DRG? Is it different or is it the same that once it's in, you're able to participate in any activity that you would like to.
I'll put it in reverse.
Okay.
Without it, I would not be participating. I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I may be sitting in a wheelchair drooling or something. I don't know. I laughingly say it that way, but the pain was that miserable. But now I'm back to scuba diving. I'm a national ski patroller. I ride a two-wheeled bike. I live on a mountain, so everything's uphill. And my wife and I love hiking. I don't know what I can't do. I haven't tried it yet or haven't found it when I do try it. And I don't accept not trying. I think you should always try. No limitations were put on me after it was installed, other than around a microwave device, I think is correct. Like, who's going to point a microwave beam at my back? But, I don't even know it's there. I forget it's there. Like I've said before, that little device is over here beside me, and I know it's not charged because I haven't charged it in a while, because I know it's working because I don't have pain. But limitations, no, none that I know of. And I just thought of it when Erin was talking about it. We're going to be flying in January, so it'll be my first flight with it installed. That ought to be interesting, especially with my metal shoulder.
Mine can actually go through airport security.
Yeah.
They give you a little card that you're supposed to give them, but I
That's
can
what
go
I've
through
got.
the regular. I don't actually have to be patted down for mine. I think it may depend from model to model what that situation is. And when, just by the way, when I got the surgery, they gave me a little card to carry in my wallet that says, I have this exact spinal cord simulator, and it's this model, and it's this, this exact thing, and it can go through this, it cannot go through this other thing. Like, it spells it out really, really, like, really for you.
That's what I have also.
Yeah. Which I appreciate, like, that they were like, just gave me that to carry around,
So Janet, with your model, you can actually go through the at the airport. You don't have to get patted down. Okay. With my model, I get patted down every time, even after I present the card.
I have to, because I have a prosthetic leg, and so they always just take me in the little room.
It's funny because I'm always using a wheelchair anyway, because I have trouble like standing and walking for long distances, which is the worst for airports. So I'm usually going through with a sky cab, push in the wheelchair, which they always used to like slot me in through the thing, but now given the choice, they usually just have me go straight through. And they wheel me up to the machine and they say, can you walk? And I say, sure. And I get up and I walk through it and I do the stupid security theater and then back in the chair and I'm on my way.
Last time I went through the airport, I just told them where the internal battery is located. So when they did pat me down, they would know. But it's a very easy process.
Yeah.
It is. And I think also it depends too. Sometimes, I remember when I had my spinal cord stimulator, going through the machine, but then they flag you, and then that's when you like show your card, and then that's when you sort of also get the pat down. So there's so many things to consider, but the whole thing is it's just being an advocate for yourself and making sure that you tell the person at the airport and you have your card, and obviously it doesn't limit you from traveling or flying. It is just more of just one little thing to be cognizant of. A question that we did receive a ton of different questions or concerns about was sort of affordability. Did anyone face barriers having this covered by their insurance, or red tape that they had to go through? Because for those that really are interested in this, many are thinking, I can't afford it. And so was this something that was easily covered under all of your health plans? And Kevin, I'll start with you because I know you'll have a slightly different take just coming from the VA.
Yes. With the VA, it was a 2-year process, mainly because of, again, information gathering, health records, and a lot of mental hurdles, I'll say, meaning you had to go through, I had to see a psychiatrist, and not just once, but a few times, and to make sure I was mentally stable. It's a very expensive surgery. I do know that they had mentioned a price to me, what it would have cost. So they didn't just grab everybody and say, hey, you need a neurostimulator. Everybody needs one. No, they wanted to make sure that it was something that I would benefit greatly from. Mm-hmm. And that I would not freak out and try to rip it out of my body. There you go. That's just how it was put to me. And so, and I've heard tell of that happening, I'm sad to say. So after making it through those hurdles, there was no problem. It was green lighted and off we went. And I do stress to my other veterans out there, that should not be a hurdle for you. If you need an advocate, the VA has them, as you would know, and they will help find the best pathway for you.
Thank you. And thank you also for your service.
It's my honor.
Yes. Janet, what about you? Any barriers when it came to getting this covered?
Not really. I mean, as I said before, like once my doctor got the wheels turning and the process got underway, I feel like the insurance was pretty happy to go along as long as I hit whatever metrics, or not metric, whatever goals they wanted me to hit in terms of pain relief and whatever my experience was. Yeah, I mean, although I will say, I have a high deductible insurance and I had to meet my deductible that year, which is not chump change for anybody. And, and it took over a year. And so like the original appointments were probably the year before, and, we're on a different deductible, and it's definitely a concern, but, they also, sometimes when you have a medical treatment, they'll give you a dummy bill for this is what we would have billed you if you didn't have insurance. And they gave me one of those and I didn't realize, and I looked out at the number and I was like, wait, excuse me, before we do this surgery, just want to make double sure that this number is not anywhere near me. And yeah, it's fine.
Yes. And I know that a lot of people with the high deductibles, that is something that they do need to consider. But also with any type of treatment.
Nowhere near what the actual cost of the surgery is. Your deductible versus the surgery. It's still significant, but you're definitely not paying for most of the surgery.
Right. Erin, what about you? Did you face any barriers?
I was on a really good insurance plan through my employer, and I didn't have a high deductible, and I just had I had a copay. But now I'm really curious because it's been a while. So I'm going to see if I have my invoice or, the actual, and see how much the actual cost was for the implant. And because it's been a couple of years. And so, but yeah, so really no barriers. I had a really good plan, and I was just very fortunate at that time to be with a good employer.
That's fantastic. One thing US Pain Foundation talks about a lot is needing a multimodal integrative approach to pain management. And obviously something that might work for you might not work for the next person. And we really need to make sure that people have a lot of different options. For some people, medications are going to be really helpful. For others, neuromodulation, or it could be acupuncture or massage therapy, and making sure that people have sort of access to all these types of things. So a question that I have is, what advice would you give somebody who tried a particular treatment and just didn't have a good experience? And Janet, I'm gonna start with you on this one too. Sorry, putting you on the spot.
No, this is where I live, in the land of don't give up, but don't necessarily expect there to be one answer that solves everything. Again, if there is, hallelujah, that is awesome.
Yes.
But for most people, I think it is going to be an integrative approach. And just because something doesn't help, doesn't mean that something else won't. And just because something doesn't help right now doesn't mean it won't help in 3 years. Unfortunately, the reality of chronic pain is there might come a day down the road that things that didn't help you at an earlier stage, your body was in one place doing one thing, they may help later. But it really is just about staying open to the possibilities and just trying to evaluate how much help you're getting from things realistically.
Great. That's such a great point and great advice for those that are listening. Erin, what about you?
Pretty much what Janet just said, be open-minded. Just because that treatment didn't work for you, don't give up. Try, there's other alternative treatments out there for chronic pain. And, just do as much research as you can, talk to family, friends, and, and just, see what would work best for you in your current, and get some kind, see if there's anything available and get some, even if it's just a minimal relief of pain. But just, just have hope and just don't give up. Just because it
Right.
didn't work for you, something else might be out there.
Yes, and to keep looking and knowing that you're not alone on that journey.
Right.
Yes. Kevin, what advice would you give?
I would say continue to research, but first and foremost, never give up, never surrender. There's always hope. But also, even a panel like this that you'll be able to watch and listen to and ask questions to, I find to be quite helpful. I wish we had something like this even when I was looking for relief. It would have helped me move along a lot easier. And with our information highway out there, things are at our fingertips a lot easier. But there's nothing better than sitting down with your medical providers and writing down. Don't try to put it just to memory, but get your notebook and put down those questions. And then when you try, and I always say in the military, we said KISS, keep it simple. So you know what the end would be. Sailor, as we would say, not stupid, but still keep it simple. The easier, the better. I mean, if pulling on your hair makes your pain go away, then just pull on your hair. That's not so bad. Surgeries are, I don't say they're a last resort, but I always say do the simple things first to try and then move along. But don't just settle. Don't accept that, hey, I'm in pain and I'm just going to have to live with it. And if my doctor had told me that, I'd have gotten rid of him and gone to another doctor. And there's a lot of them out there. And there's some really wise men and women out there in the medical world that have answers for you. So ask the questions. That's the key thing. Don't just sit in a little room and suffer in pain.
I think asking questions is so important. And I'm glad, and all three of you basically said the same thing, making sure that you don't give up, that you ask those questions, and realize that there's so many different options that are out there, and they might not give you that miracle pain-free, but maybe mixing in some mindfulness as well as some massage, as well as maybe it's some medications, and you get 15% or 20%. It's looking at those little things and putting them together and really building your own toolbox and plan that's going to be helpful for you, is definitely something that US Pain stresses and encourages individuals to keep looking for. Janet, I'm sorry, you're in the middle of my screen, so I keep calling on you first. But this is going to be sort of the last question. And for those that are watching who are interested in neuromodulation, what would be that one piece of advice that you would like to give them?
One piece of advice. Don't get intimidated. For me, I found it a very intimidating subject, not just because of the amount of money, but because of the commitment and years, because you're talking about years having a battery in your body that's not going to be replaced. Between that and just the speed that technology is moving and the number of different models that they all have slightly different pluses and minuses to them. And, you know, I found that part of it very intimidating, trying to like, look at all these options spread on a table before me. So, you know, if you think that it's something that can help you, don't get intimidated. See if it's going to help you. Like that really, it's so, for as complicated the technology and the treatment as it is it's so simple to see if it's going to help or not. And to me, that is just really an amazing thing.
Some great points. Erin, what advice would you give someone who is interested in neuromodulation?
My advice would be, don't get overwhelmed. It is a lot of information, but if it's something that is going to improve your quality of life, it is definitely worth, getting all the information about it. Don't, like what Mr. Beck said, don't just sit in a corner and just suffer in pain. Go and be your own advocate. Go out there and get all the information, do the research, talk to whomever that you might know that has chronic pain, and just find any, just go out there and just see if anything can help. And that would be my advice, is just there's so many different options out there to treat chronic pain, and with all the new technology, and it's amazing. Like Janet said, it's amazing what this implant has done for myself and other people. And just don't give up. Just go out there and just find something to help you manage, your pain, and get you back to doing what you enjoy.
Yes. And Kevin, what about you? What would be your final piece of advice for someone who is thinking about some type of implanted pain relief?
I've pondered on that answer for a while, even in this short discussion. First, I'll say there's always hope. Hope is something that was instilled in us in creation, and so we should not give up and have hope. The body is a very complicated thing, and when my neurosurgeon spoke to me about the surgery, when it came to neurological exploration, etc., he said, we have only begun to scratch the surface, but look where we are already. It's just amazing. So I can only imagine, just like with computers, every 6 months, everything's twice as fast. You buy a phone today, it's obsolete in 3 weeks. You buy a computer, it's about 24 hours. Well, new technology is still coming on the market. So you keep finding. And it's not just what I'll say electronically repair, but it might be something as simple as the right pressure point, etc. And lastly, keep your mind clean so that you can focus on healing and getting better. When I counsel men and women with phantom pain, I can't help them if they're on narcotics that they always try to give for that, but they have a clear mind. And so that's one of the things that has helped me, was I was able to get my mind cleared, focused, and believe that I was going to be better. And
the flip side of that is that using it as part of a treatment that does include maybe opiates or or other surgeries or other maybe invasive procedures, you know, it would be great to not have to make those choices, but sometimes the only choices you have are not great choices. And for me, I would have never made it to the point of having this surgery if I had never had a doctor prescribe me opiates. I wouldn't have made it there. I like just literally would not have made it to that point in my life. So I think, you know, and I'm still on narcotics. I'm not on Schedule 1 anymore, and I have changed meds, and it's made a huge difference. But again, I wouldn't have made it to that med change and been able to go down on those meds if I hadn't had this 1/3 reduction in pain that let me better manage my pain and better investigate this. You know, it's all so integrated, but it can be just a major factor.
I think what's so important is that everyone has the opportunity to have whatever treatment is going to fit for them available.
Right.
And that's sort of, I think, what we're really getting to is that we have to advocate for each other and for ourselves so that we can have those pieces of the puzzle so they fit to have bring us some type of relief and whatever it might be. But I do think that you guys, you're just amazing. I would love to be able to just sit here and pull up some more. I have a mug of water, and just keep continuing to have this conversation, because I think there's so many important things. One thing that I always say is that every single one of us has a story to tell and has journeys and experiences that are going to empower others. And you guys are doing that tonight. You are shedding light on one piece of the puzzle, one treatment option that is out there that might be a good fit for somebody. But also there's so many other things that we have to take into account and make sure that people know that there are multiple pain management techniques out there too. But to be able to shed light on neuromodulation tonight, I greatly appreciate it. And I know it's going to be super helpful for those that are listening to know, first of all, that this is an option, to have a better sense of maybe the next steps in the process. So if they wanted to go and try this, who do they talk to? They go and what that process might look like to kind of set the expectations. So they don't think maybe if they go see their provider today, next month they're going to be going in for their trial. It definitely does take a while. And then also to see sort of the full spectrum of myself, where it worked for a while and then stopped. And then with Janet, how you kind of are in the middle. And then for Erin and Kevin, that this has been so life-changing, that it took away almost all of your pain. So there's definitely a broad range here of people that have gone through neuromodulation and has had it impact their lives. And so I just wanted to close by saying thank you all so very much for being here. And for those tuning in, please go to uspainfoundation.org/November. We do have some educational materials and resources that talk about the different types of neuromodulation, as well as the DRG, dorsal root ganglion, and the spinal cord stimulator. So you can learn a little bit more. And to our sponsors of November, Boston Scientific and Abbott, thank you very, very much for supporting our efforts and this educational campaign. We greatly appreciate it.